What if I told you that the first human beings who will never die of old age are likely already walking the earth? What if I told you that you might be one of them? Right now, at this exact second, there is a clock ticking inside you. It is ticking in the telomeres of your DNA, in the stiffness of your arteries, and in the fading energy of your mitochondria. For the entirety of human history, that clock has had only one setting. It counts down, it never pauses, and it definitely never winds back. We have accepted this because we had to. We built entire philosophies, religions, and cultures around the idea that death is the inevitable price of life, that to age is natural, and to accept the end is noble. Most people are completely oblivious to the fact that we are currently living through the most significant transition in the history of our species. This is not science fiction. This is not a religious promise of an afterlife. This is a peer-reviewed, heavily funded engineering roadmap. We are moving from an era where death is a destiny to an era where death is a technical glitch, a problem to be solved, debugged, and patched. The science is moving faster than your intuition. While you've been going about your daily life, a quiet revolution has taken over Silicon Valley and the world's leading laboratories. The finish line for human mortality has been drawn, and for the first time ever, we can actually see it. The only question that matters now is, will you arrive in time to cross it? To understand why the rules have changed, you have to look at the scoreboard. If you were born in 1900, your life expectancy was a mere 31 years. It was a brutal, short existence. Today, the global average is 73 and climbing. In the richest nations, it's pushing 85. Now, skeptics will tell you that this is just because we stopped babies from dying and invented antibiotics. They'll say that the human maximum lifespan hasn't budged, that nobody lives past 120. And technically, they are right, but they are missing the most important trend line in modern history. For every decade that passed in the 20th century, science added about 2.5 to 3 years to your remaining life expectancy. That is a staggering achievement. It means that for every year you survived, you earned a bonus of about 3 or 4 months. But you were still losing the race. You were aging faster than science could save you. However, we are approaching a tipping point that changes the math entirely. It is a concept coined by the biomedical gerontologist Aubrey, and it is called longevity escape velocity. Imagine you are running a marathon, but the finish line, death, is moving away from you. In the past, the finish line moved very slowly and you ran toward it very fast. You always caught it. But as medicine advances, the finish line starts moving away faster. Longevity escape. Velocity is the precise moment when science advances fast enough to add more than 1 year of life expectancy for every single year that passes. Think about the implications of that. If you survive for 1 year, science advances enough to give you 1.1 years of extra life. You finish the year biologically younger, or at least with more time remaining than when you started it. If you stay on that curve, you effectively stop aging. You don't need to cure death all at once, you just need to stay alive long enough for the next breakthrough, which buys you time for the next one and the next. Current estimates suggest we could hit this velocity between 2032 and 2040. That is a decade or 2 away. If you are biologically younger than 50 today, you are standing on the edge of the event horizon. The old actuarial tables that predict when you will die are becoming obsolete. You are the transition generation. But hope is not a strategy. To actually achieve this, we have to treat aging not as a mystical inevitability, but as a disease, and like any disease, it has a cause. For years, scientists argued about what aging actually was. Was it genetic? Was it environmental? Was it just bad luck? The SENS Research Foundation, a leader in this field, simplified the problem. They identified that aging is not one singular thing. It is simply the accumulation of damage. Specifically, there are exactly 7 types of biological damage that kill you. If we can repair these 7 types of damage, we don't just slow aging, we stop it. Let's break down the 7 horsemen and the weapons we are building to kill them. First, we have cell loss. As you age, your tissues atrophy, your heart weakens, your brain volume shrinks, and your muscles wither because cells die and aren't replaced. The solution here is regenerative medicine, specifically stem cell therapy. We aren't just talking about theory, we are already in advanced human trials to replace the dopamine-producing neurons lost in Parkinson's disease and to patch heart muscle after a biological infarction. We are learning to reprint the missing bricks of your body. Second are mitochondrial mutations. Mitochondria are the power plants of your cells. Over decades, their own DNA gets corrupted, and they start failing, leaking toxic molecules into your body. This causes the chronic exhaustion of old age. The fix is a technique called allotopic expression. Scientists are successfully copying the mitochondrial DNA and hiding a backup copy inside the cell's nucleus, where it is safe from damage. This was achieved in mice in 2024, with human trials slated for 2027. We are effectively installing a backup generator. Third is nuclear mutation. This is the one you know. When the DNA in the nucleus of your cell gets corrupted, the cell forgets what it is and starts multiplying uncontrollably. We call this cancer. The solution is moving away from the poison the whole body approach of chemotherapy and toward precision gene editing. With tools like next-generation CRISPR and base editing, we are entering an era where we can hunt down and rewrite the corrupted code before it forms a tumor. Fourth, and perhaps the most gruesome, are senescent cells. I call these zombie cells. These are cells that have reached the end of their useful life but refuse to die. They linger in your tissues, bloated and grey, pumping out inflammatory chemicals that poison the healthy cells around them. As you get older, your body fills up with these zombies. The solution is a new class of drugs called senolytics. These drugs are designed to hunt and kill only the zombie cells. In mouse studies, clearing these cells extended lifespan by over 30% and restored youthful energy. There are currently over 25 human trials trying to replicate this. Fifth and sixth are junk, specifically extracellular junk, garbage outside the cell, and intracellular junk, garbage inside the cell. This is the sludge that gums up your biology. It's the amyloid plaque that causes Alzheimer's and the fatty deposits that cause atherosclerosis. We are discovering enzymes, some derived from bacteria, others from unexpected sources like pig kidneys, that act as biological solvents. We are designing therapies that enhance the body's lysosomal pathways, essentially supercharging your internal janitorial staff to take out the trash. Finally, the seventh horseman is tissue cross-links. Over time, the proteins that make up your tissue structure glue themselves together with sugar molecules. This is why a baby's skin is elastic and an old person's skin wrinkles. It's why your arteries stiffen and cause hypertension. We are developing synthetic glucose pain breakers to snap these bonds, restoring the elasticity of youth. 7 types of damage. 7 engineering solutions. This is the checklist. We don't need magic. We just need to finish the engineering. You might be thinking, this sounds great, but it's just academic research. It'll take 100 years to reach the clinic. 10 years ago, you would have been right, but today the landscape has shifted violently. This is no longer just about science, it is about capital. The wealthiest people and the most powerful nations on Earth have realized that the first entity to crack the code of aging will dominate the future economy. Follow the money, and you will see a war chest being assembled that rivals the Manhattan Project. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, was key in launching Altos Labs with a staggering $3 billion in initial funding. This isn't a vanity project, it is a serious biomedical juggernaut. They swept through academia, hiring Nobel laureates and top scientists by offering them salaries that universities couldn't dream of matching. Their singular focus? Cellular rejuvenation programming, the ability to reset a cell's age to 0. Then there is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He didn't just invest pocket change, he emptied his own bank account to fund retro biosciences with hundreds of millions of dollars. His stated goal is to add 10 healthy years to the human lifespan, fast. He sees AI and biology as the twin engines of the future, Look at Peter Thiel, who has been keeping the SENS Research Foundation afloat for nearly 20 years. Look at Bryan Johnson, the tech centimillionaire who is spending $4 million a year on his own body. He is publicly documenting every metric, treating himself as patient zero, to prove that biological age can be reversed. But the biggest player isn't a person, it's a nation. Saudi Arabia has launched the Hevolution Foundation with a mandate to spend $1 billion per year, indefinitely, on aging research. They are treating aging research with the same strategic importance as oil exploration. When you combine the precision of AI, the power of gene editing, and hundreds of billions of dollars in funding, you create a gravitational pull that science cannot resist. The breakthroughs are inevitable because the incentives are infinite. The train has left the station. The only thing left to determine is how fast it travels and who gets a seat. But even with all this money and science, there is a lingering fear. What if the biology is just too messy? What if the body is too fragile to save forever? Well, even then, death might still be optional. Because where biology hits a wall, physics opens a door. There is a backup plan. But let's be honest, biology is messy. It is wet, chaotic, and incredibly difficult to debug. Even if we fix the 7 types of aging damage, you can still get hit by a bus. You can still catch a mutated supervirus. If your survival depends entirely on a fragile meat sack made of water and protein, your probability of living forever eventually drops to 0. Accidents happen. This is why some futurists argue that biological immortality is just a temporary bridge. The ultimate destination isn't biological, it's digital. This is the backup plan. The premise relies on a theory called substrate independence. It suggests that you, your memories, your personality, your consciousness are not the meat of your brain. You are the pattern of information stored inside the meat. The brain is just the hardware, the mind is the software. And if you can copy software, you can back it up. This field is called whole brain emulation, or mind uploading. The goal is to slice the brain, scan the connectome, the map of every single neuron and synapse that makes you who you are, and run that simulation on silicon instead of neurons. Roadmaps from organizations like the Carbon Copies Foundation and researchers at Oxford and Harvard suggest that while this is astronomically difficult, it is not physically impossible. The resolution required is nanoscopic, and the data storage would be measured in zettabytes. But Moore's law suggests we will have the computing power to handle this between 2040 and 2060. Imagine a world where death is treated like a crashed hard drive. If your physical body is destroyed, you simply restore the last backup. You could download your consciousness into a new biological body, a robotic avatar, or exist entirely in a simulated reality. However, this path brings us to the most terrifying philosophical edge of the entire discussion. If I scan your brain, build a digital copy, and then switch it on, is it you? Or is it just a digital twin that thinks it's you, while the real you still dies? This is the teleporter paradox. If you upload your mind to the cloud, you might achieve immortality for the pattern of you. But the biological you might still have to face the void. For many, this is a deal breaker, but for others, it is the ultimate insurance policy. Even if the continuity of consciousness is broken, the survival of your memories, your wisdom, and your personality ensures that death is no longer the end of your story. It is just a change of medium. Let's assume we succeed. Let's assume that by 2040 we hit longevity escape velocity, or by 2060 we have digital backups, we fix the biology, we cure the disease. This leads to the question that usually makes people uncomfortable. Not, can we do this, but should we? The moment you mention immortality, the objections come flooding in. They are deeply ingrained in our psyche. Death gives life meaning. We will run out of space. Only the rich will have it. It goes against nature. These are valid fears, but they crumble under scrutiny. Let's dismantle them one by one. First, the boredom and meaning argument. The idea that without a deadline we would lose the will to live is a form of Stockholm Syndrome. We have convinced ourselves that the tragedy of death is actually a blessing because we had no way to avoid it. But ask yourself, does a vacation feel meaningless because you don't have to go home immediately? Does a marriage feel meaningless because you don't have a scheduled divorce date? The universe is functionally infinite. There is more art to create, more science to discover, and more stars to explore than you could fit into 1,000,000 lifetimes. If you are bored after 100 years, that is a failure of imagination, not a failure of immortality. Second, the overpopulation myth. The fear is that if nobody dies, the Earth will fill up like a crowded elevator. But look at the demographic data. We are not facing a population bomb. We are facing a population collapse. In almost every developed nation, birth rates are plummeting below replacement levels. Japan, South Korea, and much of Europe are shrinking. By the time radical life extension becomes available to the masses, our primary problem as a species won't be having too many people. It will be having too few. We might need longevity just to keep civilizations staffed. Third, and most serious, is the inequality argument. Will this create a caste system of immortal billionaires and mortal peasants? In the short term, almost certainly. The first experimental treatments will be astronomically expensive. That is how all technology works. The first genome sequence cost $2.7 billion. Today it costs less than $600. The first mobile phones were bricks reserved for Wall Street bankers. Now there are more cell phones than toilets in the world. The nature of medical technology is that it democratizes. Why? Because it is expensive to have a sick, aging population. It costs society billions to care for the elderly in their final years of decline. It is infinitely more profitable for governments and economies to have citizens who are biologically 25, healthy and productive for 100 years, rather than citizens who spend 20 years in a nursing home. Greed, ironically, will drive the price down. The billionaires will pay for the prototypes, but the economy will demand mass production. However, the transition period will be dangerous. We will have to rewrite every law we have. What happens to marriage? Until death do us part is a romantic promise when you live to 70. It is a prison sentence if you live to 700. We might see renewable marriage contracts. What happens to inheritance? If your grandfather never dies, you never inherit the wealth. We might see the end of generational wealth transfer and a complete restructuring of capitalism. We are staring at the total collapse of the human operating system. Every religion, every moral code, and every legal structure assumes a lifespan of roughly 80 years. When we remove that constraint, civilization doesn't just change, it crashes and reboots. We are standing on a bridge. Behind us is the entirety of human history, a graveyard of billions of souls who had no choice. They were born, they struggled, and they were erased by the passage of time. Ahead of us is a new era, an era where age is just a number, not a diagnosis. an era where the wisdom of the old does not have to be lost to the decay of the body. The tragedy of our current moment is that we are in the intermediate zone. We are the generation that knows it is possible, but might not make it in time. There is a very real, very cruel possibility that you could die 1 year before the cure arrives. This reality demands a change in how you live today. This is not about vanity, it is about strategy. Every cigarette you don't smoke, every workout you complete, and every salad you eat is not just about being healthy. It is about buying time. It is about fighting to stay on the curve until the curve turns vertical. If the experts are right, and longevity escape velocity is 15 to 20 years away, your job is simply to survive the next 2 decades in the best possible condition. You are building a bridge to the future. The death of death is coming. It is moving from the realm of philosophy into the realm of engineering. The money is flowing, the labs are running, and the code is being rewritten. For the first time in 4 billion years of biological evolution, the species has a hand on the brake. We are waking up from the trance. We are realizing that the circle of life was never a moral imperative. It was just a biological limitation, and we are about to break it. So, here is the final question. It isn't a question for society or for the scientists or for the billionaires. It is a question for you. When the treatment arrives, when the choice is finally placed in your hands to stop the clock, will you take it? Will you choose to see what lies beyond the horizon? Or will you cling to the old way because it is familiar? The first immortals are here. The clock is ticking, but for the first time, we have a chance to smash the clock.